This morning at approximately 9:30 a.m., tragedy struck the serene tourist destination of Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir. Gunmen opened fire on a group of tourists, killing 26 people. Most of the victims were Hindu pilgrims visiting the scenic region. The attack has sent shockwaves through India and ignited outrage across the nation. The Resistance Front, a militant group operating in the region, claimed responsibility for the attack. India has long accused Pakistan of supporting and harbouring such groups, a charge Pakistan vehemently denies. This latest incident has further strained the already fragile relationship between the two nuclear-armed neighbours. The attack in Pahalgam is not an isolated incident. It represents a long and bloody history of violence and mistrust between India and Pakistan. The two countries have fought numerous wars and countless skirmishes since their partition in 1947. The disputed region of Kashmir remains a major flashpoint. The picturesque valley has become a battleground for proxy wars and a breeding ground for resentment. Each attack deepens the divides and pushes the hope for peace further out of reach. The attack on innocent civilians, particularly those on a pilgrimage, has sparked fear and anger throughout India. The targeting of a religious group has added a volatile dimension to the conflict. The incident has also fueled anti-Pakistan sentiments within India, with calls for swift and decisive action against those responsible. The Indian government is under immense pressure to respond forcefully. How India chooses to retaliate will have significant implications for the region. The Pahalgam attack is a grim reminder of the human cost of the enduring conflict between India and Pakistan. It underscores the urgent need for dialogue and reconciliation to prevent further bloodshed. However, the path to peace is fraught with obstacles. The cycle of violence and mistrust continues to plague the region. The international community must play a more active role in facilitating meaningful dialogue and diffusing tensions before the situation escalates further. In a move that sent shockwaves throughout the international community, India announced the immediate suspension of the Indus Water Treaty. This landmark agreement, brokered by the World Bank in 1960, has governed the sharing of water resources from the Indus River system for over 6 decades. The treaty, considered a rare example of successful transboundary water management, has survived previous wars and conflicts between the two nations. However, the recent attack in Pahalgam has pushed India to take this unprecedented step, signalling the gravity of the situation. India's decision to suspend the treaty is a calculated move aimed at putting immense pressure on Pakistan. The treaty allocates control of the eastern rivers, Sutlej, Beas and Ravi, to India. However, it grants Pakistan the majority of the water flow from the western rivers, Indus, Jhelum and Chenab. This arrangement means Pakistan relies heavily on these rivers for its agricultural needs, which form the backbone of its economy. By suspending the treaty, India aims to leverage its control over the water flow as a bargaining chip to force Pakistan to take concrete action against terrorist groups operating within its borders. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, cutting short his foreign visit, addressed the nation with a stern message. He condemned the attack in Pahalgam as a cowardly act of terrorism and vowed to avenge the loss of innocent lives. India will identify, track and punish every terrorist, their handlers and their backers. We will pursue them to the ends of the earth, declared a resolute Modi. His words reflect the national sentiment and the pressure he faces to respond decisively. Modi's statement also indicates that India is prepared to take further actions if Pakistan fails to address India's concerns. India's suspension of the Indus Water Treaty has drawn mixed reactions from the international community. While many countries condemned the attack in Pahalgam, they also expressed concerns over the potential consequences of undermining a crucial water-sharing agreement. The United States urged both sides to show restraint and engage in dialogue to resolve the crisis. The international community recognizes the importance of the treaty for regional stability. Its suspension has raised fears of further escalation and the potential for a wider conflict in South Asia. Pakistan reacted to India's accusations and actions with a mix of anger and apprehension. The Foreign Ministry issued a statement expressing condolences for the loss of life in Pahalgam, but vehemently denying any involvement in the attack. Pakistan reiterated its stance on Kashmir, claiming it to be a disputed territory and condemning India's presence there. The statement emphasized Pakistan's commitment to combating terrorism and highlighted its own sacrifices in the fight against extremism. In retaliation for India's suspension of the Indus Water Treaty, Pakistan announced a series of countermeasures. It closed its airspace to Indian carriers, halting all Indian transit through its territory. Pakistan also reciprocated by expelling Indian diplomats and suspending all bilateral trade with India. These actions demonstrate Pakistan's resolve not to be seen as backing down in the face of Indian pressure. However, they also highlight the interconnectedness of the two economies and the potential for mutually damaging consequences. The Indus Water Treaty holds immense significance for both India and Pakistan, extending beyond its role in water management. The treaty, signed after a decade of negotiations, represents a rare example of cooperation between the two countries. It has survived multiple wars and periods of heightened tensions. The treaty is seen as a testament to the possibility of peaceful coexistence and a framework for resolving disputes through dialogue. Its suspension, therefore, carries enormous symbolic weight. Pakistan views India's move as an act of aggression and an attempt to cripple its economy. The country relies heavily on the Indus River system for irrigation. The treaty's suspension could have devastating consequences for its agricultural sector and the livelihoods of millions of farmers. Pakistan has warned that any attempt by India to stop or divert water flow would be considered an act of war. This rhetoric underscores the high stakes involved and the potential for the situation to spiral out of control. The international community watched with growing concern as tensions between India and Pakistan escalated rapidly following the Pahalgam attack. World leaders condemned the attack and called for restraint from both sides. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency meeting to discuss the situation. The UN Secretary-General urged India and Pakistan to engage in dialogue and avoid any actions that could further escalate tensions. The United States, a key ally to both India and Pakistan, expressed deep concern over the suspension of the Indus Water Treaty. The US State Department issued a statement highlighting the treaty's crucial role in regional stability and urging both countries to uphold their commitments under the agreement. The European Union echoed these concerns, calling for a de-escalation of tensions and a return to dialogue. China, a close ally of Pakistan, expressed support for its legitimate concerns and urged India to exercise restraint. The potential consequences of a prolonged standoff between India and Pakistan are dire. The suspension of the Indus Water Treaty could lead to a humanitarian crisis in Pakistan, as millions depend on the river for their livelihoods. The economic fallout from the suspension of trade and travel could also be significant for both countries. However, the most alarming prospect is the risk of military escalation. Both India and Pakistan possess nuclear weapons, and any miscalculation could have catastrophic consequences. The international community faces a daunting challenge in diffusing the current crisis. Mediation efforts will require sensitivity to the historical complexities of the India-Pakistan conflict and a deep understanding of the domestic political pressures on both sides. The focus must be on finding a face-saving way for both countries to step back from the brink and re-engage in dialogue. The alternative is a dangerous escalation that could have devastating consequences for the entire region and beyond.